Football League Extra in association with the Nationwide Building Society.
Coming up, 92 goals, including a second six-pack of the week for Crystal Palace. For the second year running, York City are on the bubbly. We round up the Coca-Cola shocks. Everton were on the receiving end. To relieve the hangover, they're sixth of the best from 77.
Rashford! What a glorious goal!
Well, Oxford was the end of the League Cup line for another Premiership side. Sheffield Wednesday were beaten by a goal from a player they once discarded. A player who once scored the winning goal in a cup final for Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest. This week we profile Nigel Jemson, the Rough Diamonds rebuilding his career at Oxford United. First of all, it's Division 1. For 91 minutes, it was all going to plan at Burnden Park. Bolton dominated, and Nathan Blake supplied the cutting edge again. Blake's goal, a lovely chip, his 9th in 7 games, should have been enough. But Stoke came back from 2 down to win last week, and in the final minutes of injury time, Stoke's new striker, Graham Kavanagh, ran through to score his first goal for the club. It ended Bolton's 100% record at Burnden Park. Grimsby Town pulled off one of the surprise results of the weekend. Once away, there was no catching Tommy Woodrington. Craig Shakespeare rolled in Grimsby's first. Barnsley will level after 65 minutes when Arjan Djuzeu's pass enabled Andy Liddell to show his pace. But as Barnsley pressed for the winner, their defence just seemed to fall apart. From a corner, Jamie Forrester was left unmarked. He scored at the second attempt. And Grimsby made sure of an unlikely win, but a vital one for their under-pressure manager Brian Laws, when Clive Mendonca held the ball up and John McDermott ran through to make it 3-1. It's Barnsley's second home defeat in a row. Mike Walker's making Norwich difficult to beat, but his improving side are yet to rediscover the winning habit at home. Tranmere player-manager John Aldridge made the most of some great work by Ivano Benessi to give his team something to defend. And although Norwich forced them back throughout, one goal was all they could manage. Substitute Andy Johnson, just on, created it. With a driving run down the right-hand side, Robert Fleck scored it. But it's Norwich's third home draw running. Alex Ferguson was at the county ground on Friday night. Swindon are next for Manchester United in the League Cup. And Ferguson Senior saw son Darren dissect the Swindon defence and score his first league goal for Wolves. Swindon was still the better side, though, for long spells. Mark Walters was a major influence. And when his shot was blocked on the edge of the area, Kevin Horlock thumped in an unstoppable equaliser. But it was bettered by Wolves' winner. 5 minutes from the end, Irishman Dominic Foley, on as a sub, stole the victory for Wolves with his first league goal. Wolves are into the top 4. Right now, Crystal Palace would fancy their chances against AC Milan. At least you'd back them to score. From all angles and from all over the team, Palace are finding the way to goal. Fullback Kevin Muscat began the demolition of Southend. Dave Bassett prefers not to single out individual performances, unless you talk about Ray Houghton. In wonderful form, the only surprise about Houghton's goal was that it was his first of the season. The bad news for Southend was Bassett's half-time team talk. He criticised his team for being lacklustre. Bruce Dyer was stung into action, and for 20 minutes Southend just couldn't cope with him. Dyer's pace set up David Hopkin, and Carl Veit was the next to benefit. A straightforward tap-in after good work from Dyer down the right-hand side this time. Southend's young goalkeeper Simon Royce looked increasingly bewildered by it all. 18 minutes from the end, Hopkin muscled in to supply Dyer with the goal his contribution had thoroughly deserved. And it wasn't so much the goals, but the style of the victory that delighted Bassett. 7 minutes later, his young players combined for the best goal of the afternoon, preceded by some excellent one-touch passing and rounded off by Dougie Friedman. That made it 6 for the second week running, but 22 in the last 5 games. And nobody at Selhurst Park was that bothered really about Southend's lone response. Even that was scored by a former Palace player, Paul Williams. West Brom's home form continues to baffle their manager Alan Buckley. Ipswich were too solid and Danny Sunner was closest to scoring. But Paul Crichton, signed from Grimsby last week, was one of West Brom's players to enjoy his afternoon. Ipswich are unbeaten in 6 games. No club is in more turmoil than Manchester City, and nothing improved at Bramall Lane. Here's John Helm.
By Nielsen this time. The goalkeeper could do no more than give it away to Patterson. That's a dangerous ball in. Andy Walker, and a penalty is given because Wassell took Taylor out of the game. The ball was knocked straight in by Patterson, breasted down by Andy Walker, and Taylor, trying to get there, was confronted by Wassell, and Sheffield United have a penalty. Mitch Ward, who scored from United's last penalty kick against Ipswich, scores 2 against Manchester City. Hutchinson does well to get around Lomas, and then tries to thread it inside Ingram. Down goes Walker, but he'll still get a pass in. Comes back out for Ward. Good early moments in the second half for United, and a teasing cross, and this could be a second. It is! Delightfully taken by Gareth Taylor. It was a glorious cross from Mitch Ward, and on the end of it, Gareth Taylor becomes United's top scorer for the season. It's his 5th, and it was easy for him.
It's now 4 defeats running for Reading, but after conceding 6 to Crystal Palace last week, managers Jimmy Quinn and Mick Gooding were heartened by this performance. Andy Payton scored Huddersfield's winner, but for much of the second half, they did well to hang on to the 3 points. For the 5th time in 6 games, Birmingham City failed to score. The commentator is Peter Brackley.
Sent up to Devlin. Free at the centre. Fernand with the cross, swung over towards Furlong. And Andy Legg off the crossbar. And away to safety by Mark Graham. Some super football then from Birmingham. Tikio. Bruce is there again, but here's Nigel Quasi! Indeed, a brilliant save from Ian Bennett to tip it under the bar. Nigel Quasi hitting that one with such venom from long range. He's a really good striker of the ball, this young man. And it was flipped under the bar by Bennett.
The elements didn't help Port Vale or Bradford City in their search for a much-needed victory. But Nicky Mohan did his bit for Vale's cause with a dreadful mistake, punished by Steve Guppy. Bradford looked set for their 5th defeat in 5 away games, until fullback Wayne Jacobs conjured up an equaliser from a free kick 7 minutes from the end. It was Bradford's first away goal. No wonder they posed for the team photo. His side won at Tranmere in the League Cup last week, but it's points Graham Sharp needs to preserve his job at Oldham, and Ian Ormondroyd's dreadful miss did not help. 4 minutes from the end, Oldham's defence couldn't get to grips with Ricky Otto's run down the left, and David White rewarded the Londoners' perseverance. Everyone in football has been impressed by Paul Merson's battle against his private demons. But Merson's return to the England squad wasn't the only continuing comeback story of the last 7 days. Nigel Jemson's had nothing like Merson's problems, but at Oxford last Tuesday, Jemson took the latest step on the road to rebuilding his promising career, scoring the Coca-Cola Cup goal that knocked out Sheffield Wednesday, the club that once signed him for £1 million. But then Jemson's always had a taste for the special occasion. Brian Clough spotted it. Jemson was just 18 when Nottingham Forest paid £250,000 for him. A year later, he was living every young striker's dream.
Well, suddenly Clough's way up forward now, and Jemson with a chance for Forest. He's done it! Forest have snatched the lead.
It was obviously nice to score, but to make it extra special, it was just a 1-0 victory. So everyone will always remember that goal. It was just absolutely fantastic. At one stage, I had the world at my feet, and I thought, I was there.
But the jewel in Forest's Wembley crown began to lose its sparkle. Clough had a strict code of conduct, and Jemson's precocious talents didn't always conform. The following year, he scored vital goals to help Clough to his only FA Cup final. But on the big day, Jemson wasn't even a substitute.
I think the bitter disappointment of being left out of the FA Cup final against Tottenham was a turning point, I think. I never really wanted to leave Forest, but I think to further my career, I thought going to Sheffield and playing under Trevor would have been the best thing for me.
Must be a chance here. Jemson! 2-2.
There were goals at Sheffield Wednesday, but there was also greater pressure. And then came an incident Jemson was just lucky to survive. His car came off worse in a collision with a lorry, whose driver was later convicted.
I was totally, drained from it all. Getting back from the injuries was tough. But the mental thing as well, just going out there and, knowing that he's more or less got to start again, playing the reserves, in front of a handful of people, and, train hard and just regaining his fitness again.
After Wednesday, Jemson lived the nomadic life on loan and enhanced his reputation as a striker with a bad attitude. But in April, there was a glimpse of the good side again, when he returned to Wembley to score the goals that won Rotherham the Auto Windscreen Shield. Denis Smith was watching, and as a manager who knows how to polish up rough diamonds, he was prepared to spend £60,000 and give Jemson a last chance.
I think Brian Clough once called him Big Ed, which is quite something coming from Brian Clough.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of belief in his own ability, and I like that in a footballer. I think that you need that, especially as a striker. You've got to believe that you're a good player. Now, it's a matter of growing up and keeping that under control, and I think he's possibly coming to that age now in his life where he realises that, being arrogant, you need to control it and use it at the right times.
That regulated arrogance served Oxford well again on Saturday. Jemson didn't score, but he helped push Portsmouth to breaking points. Smith signs him to link play together, and it was Jemson's clever cross that created the opening goal for another of Oxford's reformed characters, Joey Beauchamp. Terry Venables, Portsmouth's director of football, wasn't at the Manor Ground, but manager Terry Fenwick had the first team in for extra training on Sunday, so dreadful was their performance. Mike Ford tapped in Oxford's second. After that, Oxford spent much of their time toying with a Portsmouth side reduced to 10 men and not really in the mood to be wound up. Nigel Jemson would never claim to be Mr. Popular with the opposition, but handled with care, he's turning into one of the bargain signings of the season.
We'll make sure he doesn't believe he's made it yet. He's done well for me. He's scored 7 goals, but he's got a full season. And, if he's got me 30 goals at the end of the season, I'll say, yeah, the money was well spent.
Can he get you 30 goals by the end of this season?
If he carries on playing the way he is at the moment, yes.
Well, Oxford are into 10th position, their highest place so far this season. Bolton maintain their 2-point lead at the top, despite that draw with Stoke. Crystal Palace move up to 5th. Sheffield United do have 2 games in hand on most of the sides above them. Oldham remain 4 points behind Southend United. Bradford City's first away point lifts them up 1 place. Grimsby's win at Barnsley has moved them up 4 positions.